be doing a watercolor. I'm going to do an ocean view. I'm going to keep it a little on the abstract side. So I'm just kind of letting some colors blend in. We'll have the sky area up here. We'll start with some of the blues. We're just going to kind of streak some colors in. Maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson. I go in with some of the yellows. Now keep the yellows away from the blues, otherwise you're going to end up with a green sky. A little bit is fine. I have this taped down, but I am going to lift it up. Let the colors kind of run and blend a little bit. And I'm going to kind of let them run back and forth, more or less sideways. Then if you take a dry brush, just dry it real well on your paper towels. And when you run it sideways, you can kind of just touch. And that dry brush, you can keep, got a paper towel, just keep, you can pick up those, some of those colors. And that dry brush will suck up some of the wet. All right, I'm gonna lay that back down and go back in. While it's still fairly wet, I'm gonna pick up some little more of the blues. And I'm gonna streak some of that in. Do this while it's still fairly wet. Just a touch of the alizarin. I don't want too much. A little bit more. And I'm going to kind of streak that in. Clean my brush. And I'm just going to kind of pull that out. I don't want it quite that dark, but I want to bring it in with those yellows, sort of bring it in a little orange. And you can come in with a clean brush and in here, kind of pull those out a little bit. All right, we're gonna leave it at that. I'm right in here a little bit. Okay, and we're gonna let that dry a little bit. Tape that corner a little bit, and we're gonna just kind of let that lay flat. Let that dry a little bit. While that's drying, I'm going to come down here and do the bottom. Since we're going to do maybe an ocean or something in between, we'll have a little sand down here. So I'm going to take some of the yellows, a little bit of the alizarin, mix those together. I'm going to touch a little bit of green. I want to deepen that color. I don't want brown, but I do want. And let's add some color to water to that brush. And you can see it's sort of a tannish yellow. I'm going to take some alizarin. Streak some of that in there. I want some different colors flowing. And then I'm going to touch some of that green, a little more of the green in it. Maybe over in here. And I can like that. And you can see this is still flowing sideways. That's still pretty wet. I'm going to take just the corner with some alizarin, maybe. dull that down. I've got some blues and some, gives it a little purplish. Back to my yellows, a touch of the green in it, a little touch of the reds in it. Basically, I'm looking more for a, maybe a brownish tan color. And I'm gonna just deepen some of this. And hold that up. All right. I'm gonna keep that away from the top and the bottom. I just kind of leaving a little dry streak right in here. I'm gonna go into my blues and my greens. I've got sort of a vermilion green. And see, it's sort of a greenish. Back to my blues. And here I want sort of a straight line. Bring that down. And then I want to actually bring some of that greenish right in here. I'm going to take a touch of the alizarin. Since we've got some in the sky, you will see some through the water. Just going to put a streak, just clean, wet, kind of pull that out. And I'm going to go in some of the yellows. Just tap it here and there. I don't want a lot of yellows pouring through there. I want mainly the greens and the blues, but if you have it in the sky, you'll get some reflections coming down in the water. Let's go into just the blues and the greens. And then now, let it flow. And through here, I'm getting a little too heavy on some of the colors. So I'm going to hold that up, let that flow. I'm going to dry that brush again. And I'm going to suck some of this color up. And like I said, it's just drying that, getting my brush fairly dry. Touching where it's real heavy. And I'm just going off and drying my brush on that paper towel. Okay. So now that I have that, I'm going to come in here, and this is just a dry one. I'm just kind of bringing that. All right. I think I'm going to touch a little of the bright red. And very lightly. I'm not actually touching the blue, but I'm getting as close as I can just to try to bring some color down so I don't have a white streak through there. Here's fine. I can always cover that up later with a few other things. All right. So now that I got that, I've got some tape, just regular tape. You can use masking tape or whatever you have. I want to tape that back down. The paper has a tendency, you can see it buckling when it's wet. So by taping that down, kind of stretches it out and lays it flat. So now we've got it fairly flat. Got a little extra paint there. Can pick that up. We're going to let that dry. once it dries, we can go in and actually start doing a landscape. We can add some land, we can put trees in there, whatever we want. And even put a wave in there. Basically, what I did was just get rid of the white of the background and gave it just some character. It's the beauty of watercolor is the way it can blend with each other and flow. And that's what we did here. All right, we've got, this is fairly dry now. So we can start putting different things in. I think I like the sky like it is, but if you want, you can always go in and darken areas. You can even come in, maybe a little of the alizarin in that. You can even do a few little stringy clouds coming along here if you want. Some darker ones over in this corner. Maybe a couple over here. But that's up to you. You can play around with the sky. Right now, I think we're going to work mainly on the water. I'm going to mix back to my alizarin crimson and some of my greens. I'll throw a little bright red in there too. And got a smaller brush. It's got a pointed tip. Get it wet. I'm going to pick up some of that color. Maybe over here. Get that a little darker. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to that, just get it more brown. I'm going to come in, maybe there's some land over here. Tap most of that color off and kind of pull it down. And bring it right down into the water. Go back, pick up a little more color. Pick up a touch of the greens, touch of the yellow, maybe just deepen some of this so it looks like different layers of rocks. I have a twiggy brush here, it's a little thin brush. Pick up a little bit of the greens, some of the yellows, but mostly green. Just add a little touch of that brown, not much. I just want to deepen it. Maybe up here, and I usually put my finger on the paper when I'm doing small details. And maybe something looks like palm trees or something growing over here. Let's get one over here. Pick up a little bit of that brown, put some trunks on it. So it looks like something's growing up there. Come back to a little bit of my greens and stuff, maybe some shrubs or something on the ground. Yes. I'm going to take some of the blues and just underneath. I'm going to take some of the darks, some of the browns, a little darker, back to the blue and greens. Just down and so it looks like the water coming around. All right, and that looks pretty good. I'm gonna come back to some of the browns, maybe there's a little shelf here. Back to my greens. Some things growing up on top of there. So it looks like different levels. And we'll leave it at that. We don't want too much detail. It's so far away. All right. I'm gonna go back, pick up my smaller brush that's got the point on it. I'm gonna go back into the blues, touch of the greens, mix those together. I'm gonna water it down. And I'm just gonna touch it to my, just to get some of the excess water off so it's not too runny. Right here. Start pulling a few lines across. And I want to leave some of that yellows in there. In fact, I might even pick up a touch of the yellows on the tips and even add a little right in here. Not much. Take my water, just plain water, kind of pull that out. I'm even going to touch a touch of the alizarin right on the corner, maybe, and pull some of that color in. Not much. I don't want a lot. I don't want, here, just because that's up in the sky, I'll just reflect a little bit down. All right. I got a small round brush. I'm going to pick up some of those blues in this. And I'm just kind of doing a little rocking motion here and there. Or towards the outer edges. As I get up closer, I'm going to bring some of that water up here. Got a fan brush. I'm going to dip it in some of the colors, some of the browns, some of the dark colors. And I think I'm going to cover a little bit of my ocean. And I'm just kind of flicking it down so I have little spots of color in the sand. There we go. And pick up a little bit more. All right, that looks good. I got a couple spots up here. I'm just gonna kind of wipe them out. There. Wherever you don't want them, you can just kind of run them out a little bit. So I've got some of the spotted sand down here. I'm going to go into that browns. And I'm even going to put a little deeper color underneath. And I'm going to take a clean round brush, kind of pull that out a little bit, just so it, I don't want to lose it, but just kind of blend it a little bit. Maybe right here a little. Maybe where the water's washed up, you got a little stuff flowing up. I'm going to take that. I'm going to start up here. And I'm going to pull. I'm going to go over it. A palm tree. Here, apply a little sand up. That'll deepen that corner a little bit. I'm going to take my greens, some of my darker yellows. And put a little bit of the blues in it. And then I'll go back to my fan brush, pick up those greens. And with that, I'm going to open that up and start. And this is fairly light. I'm going to go in, get a little bit darker, open those up. That's a little darker. Pick up some more color. And you can keep darker. With watercolors, they do have a tendency to dry a little more lighter. I'll pick up even a deeper, darker green. Now this one I'm not going to put as much in. I want some of the lighter colors to still show. And I can even go in and pick up some yellows. I'm going to do a touch of the browns. And even add a few here and there. You always get a few of those better. Go back with my round brush to my browns. And this one I'm kind of just giving it a little texture. Back to my fan brush, back to my greens, yellows, maybe there's some grasses growing down here, just straight yellow now. Maybe get some taller ones. And then on the bottom, I'm kind of just set those down by pulling that color out a little bit. Go back in, let that dry a little bit. I think I'm going to add a few more on this one. So we got a nice palm tree, we got a little land back here. We got our sand here. Set that in. It looks pretty decent. So to finish it up, Just gonna take my little twiggy brush. I'm gonna pick up some of the blues. And out here, just in a few areas, add some water to that. Just add a little color here and there. Some of your alizarans. Nothing much, a little bit of the greens. And it's sort of a rocking motion. If it gets too dark, just add some water to your brush and pull them out. Maybe in here. And you can add a few details here and there. You can even go in. Even add some more lines if you want. You can throw some longer grasses. And I want to take a little dark color. Maybe I'll put a little bird out here. Flying in. Oh, let's give them a couple friends. I think we got a finished painting. It's a fairly simple, easy painting. Basically, you're just coloring the background, just playing with your different colors within your palette, just seeing what you get. And each one is going to be a little different depending on the colors, and then when you move it up and down and blend it, it's all going to be a little different. And then you're just going to add a few details to it, like a palm tree, a little land. Take your mat, and we got a nice little seascape. Hope you enjoyed that one. It's a simple one. Give it a try.